to help you guys with some of our equations and inequalities for review. Equations and inequalities, most of us did fairly well with this when we did it last class, but I want to make sure that we know what we're doing, as this is going to follow you throughout all of the math that you do forever. You will have to be able to solve equations. I'm going to, like I said, help you with a few of them, and you guys will do the rest. So let's start off on our equations review. And we'll just start straight off on number 1. No, I'm going to do number 2 because number 2 is harder. So let's look at number 2. We've been talking about this for the last few classes. This should be a slight review, hopefully. The first thing we are going to want to do is always distribute. So I have this 2 next to my parenthesis, I can multiply that in. I also have my 6 with the parenthesis, so I can multiply that in. 2 times x is just 2x. 2 times negative 8 gives me negative 16. Six times x is 6x. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Now I know some of us like to go ahead and start moving stuff now. I would not encourage you to do so. I would tell you to combine like terms. I can put this 2 and this 4 together because they're both x. This is a plus 2x since there's not a sign out front, and this is a plus 4. And 2 plus 4 gives me 6. I can do the same thing on the other side, but on this side, I have a negative 12 and negative 4. Remember, since both of these numbers are negative, what we're going to do is say we have the negative of 12 plus 4. 12 plus 4 is 16. So we would have 6x minus 16. And again, that's because we are taking the negative of 12 plus 4. We have the same thing on both sides, the exact same thing. If the exact same thing is on both sides, then we have infinite solutions, all of them. We have a lovely infinity sign. Done. Oh, well, there it is. I am also going to do number 4 with you because number 4 looks a little bit more difficult than number 3. Number 4, same idea. The first thing we want to do is distribute if we can. This one, we're not going to just distribute the 3. We also should take that negative sign with it, or that minus sign, and distribute our 6. The 17 stays the same, so we have 17. Negative 3 times w gives us negative 3w. And negative 3 times positive 5 gives us negative 15. 6 times w is 6w. 6 times 5 is 30. And then our minus 2w comes down. Again, I would encourage you to combine like terms before you start moving things. We can put our 17 and our minus 15 together. And 17 minus 15 is just 2. So we have negative 3w plus 2. We can put our w's together on this side, and we would have 6w minus 2w. Well, 6 minus 2 is 4. So I would have 4w plus 30. Most of us like to keep our variables or our letters on the left side, so I'm going to follow suit with that. I'm going to choose to subtract 4w away, because 4 minus 4 is 0. Negative 3 and negative 4 make negative 7. We then need to subtract our 2 away. Again, because positive 2 and negative 2 make 0. We have 30 minus 2, which is 28. And when we divide that 7 away, we end up with x equals 4. And is it going to be positive or negative? I have a positive 22 and a negative 7, so my answer will be negative 4. And I'll give you one more on this front page before I scroll to the back. Let's do one of these fraction ones. I'm going to do number 8 because it has that 2x with it. On this, what we're going to do is cross multiply, or butterfly method. So I'm going to take what's in the top corner and multiply it to the bottom. I would have 10 times x plus 5. We go across our equal sign to the other side. I would have 4 times 2x plus 4. Again, I go across to the other side. Anytime we have a fraction with a fraction, we can just do this. We can cross multiply. So now we would distribute, 10 times x and 10 times 5. 10 times x is just 10x. 10 times 5 is 50. We distribute on the other side. We have 4 times 2x and 4 times 4. 4 times 2 is 8, and we just throw the x at the end. 4 times 4 is 16. Again, we like to keep our variable or our letter on the left side of our page normally, so I'm going to choose to subtract my 8x away first. Because 8x minus 8x is 0x, so I have 10 minus 8, which gives me 2x's left over. We subtract our 50, because 50 minus 50 is 0. We have 2x equals 16 minus 50. Remember, if it doesn't make sense, flip it around. What is 50 minus 16? Since we said 50 first and 50 is negative, our answer is going to be negative. Or if we're using our calculator, we can just type in 16 minus 50 and end up with 34. Don't forget, on the calculator, when you are typing in, if you are to type the 50 first, you need to hit your number and then the negative sign, so don't forget. We have 34 divided by 2, which is why I pulled up a calculator. 34 and then the negative sign. So we hit 34 and then our negative sign divided by 2. And we end up with negative 17. So that's 3 free answers on the front. Let's get a few on the back. I'm going to do number 9. No. I'll do number 10 and number 12. Number 10, we said when we are dealing with absolute values, we want to make sure that everything outside of our values are gone. So everything outside of our grouping symbols. There's nothing over here and there's nothing over here. So we can skip our first step and we jump straight to the second one. Remember, when we are doing absolute values, the stuff inside stays the same. So our m minus 1, 2m minus 1 stays there. However, we have to do it twice. We do it once for the number they gave us, and then we do it again for the opposite of that number. So we do it for both the positive and the negative version, which means we will end up with 2 answers. The first thing we have to do is add our 1 away. 3 plus 1 is 4, so I now have 2m equals 4. And then we would divide by 2 on both sides and get that m equals 4 divided by 2 is 2. Don't forget about the second time you have to do it. We still add 1 away, but negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. We still divide by 2 on both sides. And negative 2 divided by positive 2 is actually going to give us negative 1. So we have 2 answers. Number 12, same idea, just a little bit more difficult. Remember, we want everything away from our absolute value. We have 2 things that we need to get rid of. The first one we want to move is this minus 4. If this says minus 4, then we should add 4 on both sides. So we have 3 absolute value of 2v minus 7 equals negative 1 plus 4 is 3, because that just becomes 4 minus 1. Then we need to divide this 3 away. Remember, when we're doing absolute values, we do not want to distribute. We want to just get rid of it. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so it goes away. 3 divided by 3 is also 1, so that one would become the absolute value of 2v minus 7 equals 1. Now that we have everything away from the outside of everything is away from our absolute values, we can now break it into our 2 equations. We have 2v minus 7 equals 1, and 2v minus 7 equals negative 1. Remember, the steps are going to be the same, but our answers are going to become different. The first thing we want to do is add our 7 away. And I'm going to do both of these, just to save us a few seconds of time. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. Those cancel out. And we have 2v equals 1 plus 7 is 8. Or we can have 2v equals negative 1 plus 7 is 6. We divide everything by 2. Because 2 divided by 2 cancels it out, goes away. We have 8 divided by 2, 4. We have 6 divided by 2, 3. Don't do 13, don't do 14, don't do 15, and don't do 16. We're not doing this. Those are going to be way too hard for what I want to do today. So you need to finish the rest of this page for grade. Make sure you remember to finish this page, front and back. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 problems for homework 7 that you need to complete on your own or with your partner. Then we move on to inequalities, and I will do some of these with you as well, and you will be expected to finish the rest. just like we did last class. Inequalities are going to be almost the same as our equations. The big difference, remember, is when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you have to remember to flip your sign. We're also not doing the interval notation part. I'm going to do number 1. I'm not going to do number 2. Or I'm going to do number 2, not number 1. I might honestly, I'm probably going to do most of the even problems. The even problems tend to be the hard ones on this. So we will start off with number 2. We want to move everything away from our x values, and we also want to try and get our x on the left side. In general, we always like our x, or whatever our letter is, to be on the left, and then our number on the right. But to do any of that, the first thing I need to do is distribute this 1/2. When we are doing 6 times 1/2, we can also think as that 6 divided by 2. And same thing when we are doing 4 times 1/2, or negative 4 times 1/2, what we can think of is negative 4 divided by 2. So the left half stays the same. 5x plus 8 is less than or equal to 6 divided by 2 would give me 3x, and negative 4 divided by 2 gives me negative 2. Now we can start moving things from the left and the right. I'm going to subtract my 3 away and get it over to the left side. 3 minus 3 is 0. 5 minus 3 is 2. So I have 2x plus 8 is less than or equal to negative 2. I can now subtract my 8 away because 8 minus 8 is 0. And I have 2x is less than or equal to negative 8, and negative 2 make negative 10. And then I divide both sides by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And it's a negative 10, so I have negative 5. This is where we put our dot. So we put a dot at negative 5. And don't forget, if that little line is there, if the little manhole cover is there, we need to fill in our circle. So because of that little line, we know that this is a closed circle. And then our inequality points the direction we want to go. So I draw my arrow the same direction. And we're done. Number 4 is going to be a little bit more difficult. The first things we're going to want to do is distribute our negative and distribute our 4/3. When we're distributing our 4/3, we'll have 4 times negative 3/4 x. I'm going to ignore the x for now. What we're going to do is put that 4 on top, so we would have 4 times negative 3, and then divided by 4. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So this first part is just going to become negative 3x. We have to do the same thing again, but with our 12, so we have 12 times negative 3 over 4, which means we're going to do 12 times negative 3 divided by 4. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36, and divided by 4 is negative 9. Remember, we need to distribute this negative sign in, so it wouldn't be positive 2x, it would be negative 2x. It wouldn't be positive 8, it would be negative 8. We like to keep our x on the left, so I'm going to choose to add this 2x away. Negative 3 plus 2 is going to give us negative 1. And we still have that minus 9 and that minus 8. We add our 9 away so that we have negative 1x is less than or equal to 1, because negative 8 plus 9 is 1. And the last thing we need to do is get rid of that negative sign, so technically we divide it away. Now, do not forget, we are dividing by a negative number here, which means we have to flip our sign. So I now have that x is greater than or equal to negative 1, and it's negative 1 because a positive and a negative stay negative. We put our dot on negative 1, and we know it's a closed circle again because of that little line right there. And my inequality points towards the windows or to the right, which is why we also point to the right. We'll look at what else we have. Number 6 is an OR function. Remember, when we're doing ORs, we're just going to treat these as 2 whole separate equations. Let's solve the one on the left first. The first thing I need to do is add this 10 away. Negative 3 plus 10 is the same thing as 10 minus 3, which would give us 7. We divide this x away. Oop, not the x. Divide the negative sign. Do we need to flip our sign? Hopefully you're all saying yes, because we did divide by a negative number. So we have x, we have negative 7, and we need to turn our sign around, so now it's pointing to the left. We put our dot, closed dot, on 7, and we point to the left. Now we do it again, but this time using our right equation. We should add 2 away first, so that we have 5x is greater than negative 25. We divide our 5 away. Do we need to flip the sign? We do not need to flip the sign, so we would have x is less, do not need to flip the sign, keep it as greater than. X is greater than negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5. So I go to negative 5, and I'm going to put an open circle because there is not a line here. And my open circle points to the right. Remember, our OR functions are always going to point away from each other, just as they're doing here. Our OR functions will never touch. If they do touch, then either you screwed up or we're not doing an OR function. Number 8 is the start of our AND functions. Now there are 2 different ways that you can do this. There were a mix of students who liked one method versus the other, so I will show you guys both of them on this equation. The first method is to separate these into 2 separate equations. So we could say that we have 5 is less than or equal to x plus 4, and we also have x plus 4 is less than 7. The stuff in the center is shared on both ends. We would subtract our 4 away. 5 minus 4 is 1, so I have 1 is less than or equal to x. And over here I would subtract my 4 away again, just like I did. And I have x is less than 3. So we would put a closed circle on 1, an open circle on 3, and we know AND functions are connected. If you did not like the split it up method, then you could also just do the same thing, just a little bit visually different. We need to subtract our 4 out of the middle. We want only x in the middle, so we subtract our 4 away. But remember, you have to do it to every single side. Five minus 4 still gives us 1. X is the only thing left in the center now. And 7 minus 4 still gives us 3. So we still got the same answer. It's just represented a little bit differently. But both methods work. Whichever one makes you happier, you are more than welcome to do that. I do not care. You can alternate if sometimes it's easier to do the quick one, and sometimes it's better to break it apart. That also works. I want you to be able to do this, regardless of which method you choose. Number 10. Again, remember, we want to get everything out of the middle. I'm going to do it our short method way. Short method. The first thing we want to move is this. Ooh, no, the first thing that most of us are probably doing is distributing this 4. Four times x is 4x. 4 times 9 is 36, and then we have minus 7. Then we can go ahead and do 36 minus 7, which is 29. And that was and that's less than or equal to. Now we can subtract our 29 away. So we are left with 4x in the middle. 9 minus 29 gives us negative 20, and 25 minus 29 gives us negative 4. We divide by 4 on all the sides. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. 4 divided by 4 is just 1, or x. And negative 4 divided by 4 gives us negative 1. So we put a open circle on 5 and a closed circle on negative 1. And again, we connect the dots. When we are doing our absolute values, just like on the first set of problems, we're going to have to do this equation twice. The first thing we always have to make sure is there anything outside of our absolute values that we need to move? For number 12, the answer is no. So we can just go ahead and split this up into 2 equations. We have the one they gave us. 4x minus 10 is less than 22. And do not forget, we also have to take the opposite of both our sign and our equals. So when we solve it again, we would have 4x minus 10 is greater than negative 22. The math steps that we do will be the same, but our answers will be a little different. We want to add 10 to both sides. So we have 4x is less than 32. And when we divide 32 by 4, we get 18, right? Not 18, we get plain 8. Wow, not even close. We get plain 8. So I know I'm going to put a circle on 8. And it's going to be open. And it's going to point that way, to the right. For x minus 10 is greater than negative 22, we add our 22. Ooh, whoa, we add our 10 away again. Same thing we did on the first step. This time we have negative 12. Negative 22 plus 10 is negative 12. We divide by 4 on each side, and 12 divided by 4 is going to give us negative 3. Also an open circle, and pointing inward. Since they are both pointing inward, remember we just connect the dots. Two more problems with me before you're expected to do the rest of them on your own. 14. Remember, we do not distribute into absolute value, so what we're going to do instead is divide it away. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1, so now that's gone. We have the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is less than or equal to, right here. We did something. We divided by a negative. Did we do that anywhere else, and did I miss it? No. Okay, that's amazing. Normally I miss one, and you guys aren't with me to tell me I missed it. We need to flip our sign because we divided by a negative number. And then we have negative 33 divided by negative 3. Well, our negatives cancel out, and 3 divided by 3 is 11. Now that we have everything away from our absolute value, we can separate this to be 2x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 11, and 2x plus 5 is less than or equal to negative 11. We subtract our 5. So now we have 2x is greater than or equal to 11 minus 5 is 6. And negative 11 minus 5 is negative 16. Divide everything by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so I have x is greater than or equal to 3. And that arrow points away because of our inequality. Negative 16 divided by 2 gives us negative 8. And again, if you look at our inequality, it's pointing to the left. So I put a closed circle and also point away. The last one that we're doing together is number 16. Same process, different numbers. Also extremely difficult. This one has a fraction outside. On number 15, notice this does not have a fraction, so you will just add your 8 and you will divide by 3. So mine's going to look a little bit different. Number 15, you're going to do it just like we did number 14, okay? The only difference is you're not going to have to flip your sign. So number 15 and number 16 are going to be pretty similar. 15 and 14, 15 and 14, not 15 and 16. 16 has the fraction. Last one I'm doing with you. The first thing I want to do is move this 10. Now this 10 does not have a sign out front, which means it is a plus 10. So we undo plus 10 with minus or subtract 10. 10 minus 10 gives us 0. So we now have negative 3 over 2. Then our absolute value, 3x minus 9, our absolute value, our greater than sign, 1 minus 10 is negative 9. Now we want to, most of you are going to say just multiply by 2, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. And now we would divide by that negative 3. Which again, notice, do we need to flip our sign? I hope you said yes we did, because we do in fact need to turn our sign around. I would have 3x minus 9. Now we would have less than, a negative and a negative, those cancel, and 8 divided by 3 is 6. I have everything away from the left side of my equation other than my absolute value, so we can break this into two different things. We would have 3x minus 9 is less than 6. 3x minus 9, flip it, so greater than, and change it so it's negative 6. We should add the 9 away on every side. Which again, if you want to do these separately, you can. You do not have to do them both together. 9 minus 9 goes away, so we have 3x. 6 plus 9 is 15. Negative 6 plus 9 is positive 3, because it's 9 minus 6. And we divide each side by 3 again. Do we need to flip our sign? Is this negative? Is this negative? So we do not need to flip our sign. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 3 divided by 3 is 1 again. We put a dot on 5, and it's going to be an open circle. We put a dot on 1, it's also an open circle. 5 is pointing to the left. 1 is pointing to the right, so they connect the dots. And those are all the problems I'm going to do with you on this one. Double check and make sure there's nothing that I would like you to skip. Skip number 7. Don't do number 7. And I want you to do the rest of them on this page. If you need any help, you guys are welcome to email me, or you can ask me during class next time. But I want you to complete the rest of these problems for your classwork and for your homework. Don't forget to submit a picture when you are done. Good luck.